Good. It's 7:03 and we'll call this meeting of the Old Saybrook Board of Education to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
And pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining this evening. We will start with our audience of citizens just before we start. And if you have the agenda, the meeting conduct is on the back. Just to remind anybody that would like to address the board, our policy or our bylaws on this, we allow anybody to come and address the Board of Education. We ask that you identify yourself by name and address. Board of Education may or may not respond to you at that time. There is a potential that we might defer our questions to the superintendent for comment at that point, but you may not get a response based off of your comments tonight. We may also ask the superintendent to clarify a specific question or issue at this time. 3 minutes are allocated to each speaker and a maximum of 30 minutes to any subject matter. I'll ask our secretary, Karen Berter, to keep time for each speaker. And then no boisterous conduct shall be permitted at any board meeting. If that continues, then there is a potential that there would be grounds for the summary termination. And then speakers are required to refrain from presentations that discuss specific employees of the Board of Education, regardless of whether or not the employee is identified in the presentation by name or another reference that tends to identify an individual. Members of the public are encouraged to submit commendations, comments, charges, or complaints concerning specific employees to an appropriate administrator or to the Board of Education under the provisions of the Board of Education policy. So if you have any questions at any point too, you are welcome. So if there's anyone that would like to address the board tonight, then we'll open up the floor. Yes, please.
Chris Ratneri, 10 Oakwood Heights at Old Saybrook. I'm here tonight to follow up from a couple of meetings ago. Number one, your policy, I wanted to know whether you have decided or not, doesn't sound like it, whether naming employees is going to be allowable, because I think the public has a right to know, and the Supreme Court and the federal courts have ruled that this exact policy is actually unconstitutional. With that in mind, I think it's important that people know that there are teachers here that specifically and on tape, and I have a transcript of it, have cheated students out of opportunities. They have not followed the Connecticut Code of Conduct, which your board has actually adopted. It's not a democratic process if it's rigged. It's not a democratic process or ethical if it's rigged and precast and pre-aired. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass out this transcript, if anybody would like it, to your board and everybody else, of a teacher, and that's on tape. I tried to play it the last time, very loud, couldn't really hear it. Actually admitting that it's normal for them to just pick their favorites, that it's normal for them to just decide ahead of time what's happened. I've tried to bring this to the superintendent, to the board for almost 2 years. No one wants to deal with it. So unfortunately, I have to now do it in public. I'd rather not. I'd rather handle this behind the scenes. And all I really want is to know, why would you allow a teacher to do this? Why would you not look at the evidence? I also have a transcript and a tape to back it up if anybody wants to hear it. A former superintendent actually admitting that it was done wrong and actually admitting that this happened. And the only reason she wouldn't change it is because the teachers might quit. Does anybody here really find that acceptable? Because I don't. I think you need to really address the teachers and the specific teachers that have done this. They're not just my child, but many children. I've seen several people. I've got letters from people that are former students. I've got tapes of people's children that are in this room saying the exact same thing. That they knew, that all the kids knew, they didn't want to address it. Nobody wanted to address it. Everyone wanted to sweep it under the rug thinking it's going to go away. Well, I'm telling you, it's not going to go away. You need to address it. It's not right. It shouldn't be done to anybody else. It shouldn't be done to my daughter. And it should be a democratic process with an actual, real democratic process where there's no rigging, no precasting, no favorites, no anything. If you have a contest, it needs to be legitimate. And I think you need to address it in public and name the employees that did it so that everybody in the school and everybody in the town can make an assessment whether the board is doing its job, the administration is doing its job, and the teachers are doing their job. I just, I think it's really sad that it has to come to this. My daughter received death threats, wishes for suicide, and not only that, teachers actually left things.
Sir, your time is up.
Thank you.
Mr. Rotnier, I did respond to you a little bit earlier today to your
Thank you.
email regarding the bylaws and the question that you sent.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time? Yes.
Jordan Shellens, 18 Cinnamon Ridge. I had to ask where the meeting was tonight, so if you could post on the website where the meetings are and what room they're held in, that would be very helpful.
Yes.
Deborah Shaw, 12 Rivers Ridge Road. One of the things that Carl Fortuna and I have been discussing is the lack of voter turnout for various referenda, town meetings, even municipal elections. So I wanted to request, administration, I understand that the schools are going to be closed November 4th and 5th, which are one of which is election day. And I would love to request that in a completely nonpartisan way, that the parents be informed. There is early voting now. This is our first municipal election with early voting. So I'd love the note to go out to the parents, just reminding them that they can vote early if they are planning to be away during the school holiday of the 4th and the 5th.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time?
So my name is Mike Bender, from Three South View Terrace. I just want to talk about just the pet policy. Let me be clear, I support classroom pets. Research is overwhelming. Animals in classrooms teach responsibility, empathy, and provide comfort to students. I saw it firsthand how my son's engagement and excitement increased when the pet came into his classroom last year. They're not just pets, they're living teaching tools that create meaningful learning experiences. I also support establishing a formal policy. I wish we had a draft to review tonight. I wish there was a vote tonight. Lacking that, I hope that it contained reasonable provisions, like requiring care plans, addressing allergies, and mandating parent, notification. These are all sensible safeguards, should have been placed years ago. I welcome this. What I don't support and what disappoints me is how this whole situation was handled. The pets were removed. I don't know what was told to the students. I can only imagine that whatever it was, they couldn't make up for the heartbreak. Students worked hard to earn these pets by demonstrating they were ready for responsibility. It wasn't fair, could have been handled better. A policy could have been developed well if the pets remained, while teachers worked to ensure compliance with whatever the new policy was. The communication to parents was also equally troubling. We received notification only after hundreds of us signed petitions, sent emails, even a news story aired. Superintendent, your email said that leadership became aware for the first time this year. Many pets have been here for years. It also stated that no prior notification went out. As a parent last year, I knew what was going on. We were notified, and lots of communication went to us. They don't align with what the reality was that I saw. And so what I'm asking tonight, return the pets to the classrooms immediately. Publish the draft policy to the community for input and comment. Commit to a timeline for a vote on the policy. And acknowledge this could have been handled better. And commit to transparent, thoughtful decision-making going forward, especially on things that impact our children's daily experiences. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this point? I will say that we are moving forward with a policy. Policy committee did meet tonight on this specific topic to be moving that forward to revise. It will go through the typical policy process where we would go through first and second readings, and we will be sending that out for the public to be able to see what that policy is. And I don't know if there's any other feedback that you'd like to give. Superintendent.
Nothing more than I've said already. I know I spoke with some of you at a PTA meeting, and I just sort of codified that in the policy committee meeting. Typically, when a draft policy goes out, it goes to the board for first revision. I'd ask for their permission. If we do have a draft policy to send out, I'd like to send that out to the community so you can get an opportunity to look at it before it becomes codified in the first reading, if you so choose. And the policy committee was amenable to that. So, we did meet to that. Oh, I got a shirt off. I'm done. Happy with it. But the policy committee actually just That's why we were a little bit late getting in here. They're having a meeting. There's some direction on what the next steps will be, but we don't have a draft policy to share this evening. I think I shared that at the PTA meeting that I can't promise it'll be a draft this evening because the committee hadn't met yet. The committee met, we're working on a draft and hopefully gonna start expediting that process so that way you have an opportunity to see what the board is considering. And a lot of the things that you mentioned, sir, were actually discussed during the policy committee meeting about the proper rules for not just for students, but also for the care of the animals. Okay.
All right, Karen, any correspondence?
Reports by students first. Reports
by students. Sorry, you are correct. Report by students, Nika.
Yep, so Sylvie's not here today, so I'll be handling this. So to start off, tomorrow is the PSAT and the SAT day in the high school. So for those of you that don't know, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen will be taking the PSAT and seniors will be taking the SAT. Now into sports, for a lot of sports, their seasons are coming to an end. So we've had senior days, and more importantly, states and shorelines are coming up next. So for those who don't know, that's like the competitions, tournaments. And last meeting, we talked about the Mr. Bourne field naming ceremony. That was a success and a lot of people came. And so it was definitely nice. Now onto clubs. All the clubs that we mentioned last meeting, everything's still going well with them. And the DECA trip to Washington, DC, there was 11 kids signed up, so that's more than the 6 kids that were expected to go. Student opinions. I think we're in a good phase right now where a lot of the freshmen are slowly becoming more used to the high school. They're feeling more comfortable, with the environment, and they're starting to do better. Now, one negative to this SAT that is coming up is there are a lot of students that are choosing not to go to college, and they feel like taking the PSAT, but also the SATs are, a waste of time. Finally, for school updates, we had a half day last Friday, and we have the Shoreline Music Festival tomorrow, and this entire week is actually our Spirit Week. So today was Rhyme Without Reason, tomorrow will be Pajama Day, and each day is a new fun activity. So tomorrow, mentioned it's an important day, PSAT day. We have field day activities after that. And then on Friday, we have our homecoming dance with the theme of Night in Paris.
Thanks, Commissioner. Are any questions from the board?
Good question.
Sure.
Oh, so it says that the Shoreline Music Festival is tomorrow,
Tomorrow,
but
correct.
it says it's a fun all day.
I think so. Yeah. I'm not in any of that.
It's big, so your students are there all day, and then the performance is the Saturday.
It's in some other schools, so they're all day.
Yeah, they'll done, yeah, and practice for the evening. Yeah.
Thanks.
Nico, thank you as always for a very thorough report. Okay, now Karen, if you have any correspondence.
We do have correspondence. We received quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. Received correspondence from parents relating to the following topics. There were multiple questions about pets as therapy animals in classrooms. A parent also raised a question about the safety of our students petting farm animals that were brought by farmers as part of the state recognition, our farm to school nutrition program. One email we had about the fourth grade family night moving up celebration, and there was a question raised about our summer enrichment program and accessibility to Old Saybrook residents who attend schools out of our district. So the administration has addressed or is currently addressing all of these concerns. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, and this will be, excuse me, our meeting minutes from September 23rd. We'll need a motion as moved by Eileen. Second, seconded by Karen. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. All right, and then we will move into our field trip request.
Mr. Taylor? I get you. This is an overall field trip request that I am not going to leave any information or guess out, so I'm gonna put all the pressure on Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. Good evening, board. I'm Jeremy Taylor, music teacher at Old Saybrook High School and instructional leader for fine arts in the district. This is an annual presentation that I do about the high school music department's 2 overnight field trips. We have 2, which we do. The first being the New England Music Festival Association Festival. Does have a festival, one twice. And the second one is the Connecticut Music Educators Association All-State Music Festival. And so everybody have the letters that I sent, so I won't go over all the details for each of these, but I do have 2 students who joined me tonight to speak about their experiences at the New England Music Festival and to answer any questions that you all might have about it. They're more interesting to listen to than I am. So both of them, you guys, you don't have to stand up. Stay there, like, stay comfortable. Both of you attended New England's 2 consecutive years already.
Yeah, sophomore and junior year, just their senior year.
Your seniors now, and they have their traditions. We could quickly, if you would mind, folks. Kayla, describe the process.
Yeah, of course. So for the New England Music Festival, which is what we're both going to be auditioning for, and we've both gone to. We've both gone last 2 years for choir, but it's basically an audition process that begins in like mid-December. And then you get your, like, if you were accepted or not, near the 10th of December, early January. And then the actual music festival is in March. It kind of changes from year to year on what time it is. It's usually after a lot of the big music events in high schools, like the musical or anything like that, and like concerts. And we're basically there for how long? About 3 days. Yeah, like 3 days. We stay there overnight, and it's with schools from across all of New England. There's a choir, there is an orchestra band, a concert band, and a new jazz band that some of our students have gone to in the last 2 years. And there's also featured soloists, which Sasha was featured soloist for piano last year, alongside being in the choir. And it's just a really great experience. I've met a lot of different people that I would have never met if I was never to do the New England Music Festival. Great fun I have.
I think that the audition process and also the process of being in the festival are both, like, they kind of surpass not just like musical education, but also like your implications for your future. Like the audition process is very much like, you know, you get up there, you do your best, no matter, you know, what happens. I think that's important to carry on, you know, throughout all aspects of your life. And being there, like Michaela said, meet so many new people, it broadens your horizons, it opens you up to various new connections with, you know, other students, with the conductor. And it's just a great experience, even if you don't want to pursue music in college or secondary education in that field. It's still just a really amazing opportunity to be able to sing or perform or demonstrate a skill that, you know, you've never demonstrated to anybody else before. It's just a really amazing experience, and I highly recommend all students audition and try it out. It really changes their life.
And one last thing, if you do a solo audition for either All-State or New England Music Festival, it does allow you to apply for an honors band curriculum rather than just the regular college preparatory level band and chorus. And I think that's a really great opportunity because it teaches students about discipline and also just being able to like hold their own in an audition. Like with because I've auditioned with solos in the past 2 years alongside Sasha. We've been able to like workshop our own solo pieces, and it just really allows us to like kind of learn ourselves as artists on our own, with of course supervision from our teachers. But it's a great outlet and a great opportunity.
Guys. And the second trip is the CMA All-State trip. We had one student participate last year. She did a great job, but she was a senior, so she can't join us. And that one is a little different because there are 2 rounds of competition. There's a regional competition. Students have to make that, then they can try out for All-State. So these are opportunities that we felt are important. They're traditions around here. We've been doing them for a very long time. And it's honestly, it's nice to come and present them to the board and have them validated. So think that's our presentation. I'd love to take questions if anybody has one.
I don't have a question. I just want to compliment the both of you on your poise and your articulation. I'm very impressed with your public speaking, and I imagine that that's a testament to some of this experience that you've had, but very, very impressive for two women of your age. Very nicely done. Thank you.
Any other question on the chat?
No, I was just gonna make a motion.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Make a motion to, do I have to do them separately? Or can we lump the two music festivals in together?
I think we do it together.
I'd like to make a motion to approve both music festivals.
Second by Jack, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good job, lady.
Okay, then we'll talk for our strategic plan.
Okay.
So as promised, I brought the Step Brothers with us this evening. All of you know Jeff Chong, and you may remember the other guy, Trent. Switching because he's still not sitting in his seat. But welcome, Jeff and Trent, part of the vision when we made this articulation of these two gentlemen to take on some much needed infrastructure work that was happening in the district. It was a challenge because it was between our ears, but we were trying to get it on a piece of paper or get it on a presentation. And then I met these guys and it was very, very easy. And we were very fortunate to already have them as district employees. So their initial kickoff, as we discussed last week, I gave you all a draft of an outline of the strategic planning process moving forward, for your consideration, not a recommendation, but basically what we've gotten thus far. I have gotten a few questions back from some of you, but one of the culminations was going to be these two gentlemen just sort of giving an update on what they've done, which is remarkable in a very short period of time. I guess I can let you count with that. They've been doing a lot of this before they were in these roles because they're just awesome. But in particular, some of the work that they're going to do supporting not just the district, but also you in moving our strategic plan forward. So I will shut up now and allow you guys to share your part, and then I'm sure there will be questions when it comes to what you actually go for. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, evening board, thanks for having us. We're gonna go rogue and use our own clicker.
Good job.
Yeah. So during our convocation this year, Superintendent Drezig has presented the district with 3 commitments. Increase academic rigor, address behavioral and disciplinary matters with greater consistency, and also strengthen and align school practices across the district. So our department, focusing on research, alignment, implementation, transitioning, and supporting, our goal is to rope those 3 commitments and see what we can produce for the district. So starting with academic rigor, you're implemented Atlas. So as Atlas' name, it charts and maps curriculum. This helps our teachers by unifying all of our Connecticut state standards, putting them in a place that's easily accessible, and so they don't have to go through websites digging for them, and making sure that those are leveraged in their lesson plans and also scaffolded across K through 12, so that we know that everything that's being taught is tying to the next topic that they're learning. It also allows teachers to go through and see what neighboring subjects are teaching. So for example, if I'm a math teacher, I can see what science is doing, and maybe there's a correlation between the topics that I can tie in so that both subjects can support one another. It's kind of like ELA or social studies. We're also implementing and piloting IXL. So IXL is a assessment tool that's on top of our Star Renaissance program. It allows us to take some benchmarks in spring, winter, and fall for how our students are progressing. It also provides extended learning, meaning they have access 24/7 to IXL to do any instructional learning that they'd like on their own pace. It's interactive, it's engaging. 62% is used in school districts and 38% is used at home so far. So it's incredible to see that data and see that our children are engaging with that at home as well. At the moment, I think by tonight, we'll reach 115,000 questions answered by the students. So it's great to see that they're engaging. And that's just from K through 12 at the moment. For MBA, adaptive scheduler. So as Nico may be familiar with the high school, you're using adaptive scheduler to see how you utilize your flex time. So flex time meaning when you're in between classes, or how are you leveraging it? So we provide that program to allow students and teachers to coordinate. Do I want to go and get SAT help? Do I want to spend some time on extracurriculars? Do I want to focus on this topic or get extra help in the classroom? It allows us to be accountable for how students are using those instructional times that are not fully defined by kind of defining them through the flex time. And also lets them develop that ownership and accountability, especially when they go to college or once they're done with K through 12. How do you manage your time is important. And so we're glad that adaptive schedule is working well at the high school. We're also rolling out with Transfer. So Transfer is a virtual reality exploration program that focuses on career development, career awareness, experience planning, all in a risk-free environment. So I've seen students use it, standing right next to them as they're climbing pylons, training screws and everything, doing surgery. Those are engaging tools that students need that we can't offer without having some liability issues. So having them do it in VR is a safe and engaging environment. In terms of aligning practices across the district, we're using Swiss at all 3 schools that lets us track it and submit behavior issues. So any teacher at any given moment, when they can submit digital referrals that get sent to the administrator. So no need for, I'm done with the school day, I need to run and fill out this form, forgot what time, forgot what happened. They can instantly do that on their accounts, and administrators will be able to view and see and identify if there's any patterns. If, let's say, this is a specific location that doesn't have enough paras or enough teachers for guardianship, that we need to improve this just so that we can improve the behavioral practices across the school district. For MBA attendance monitoring, we rolled out this program across all 3 schools. The high school was using this last year, enabling parents and guardians to submit their students' attendance in tardies. And so that helps us in the front offices reduce the amount of call traffic, while also giving every family the accountability as well to say, I know we're going on a trip, Johnny's visiting at college, he'll be out or he'll be late on a certain day. It also gives us tools for documentation, analytics, to see if there's any trends to prevent any truancies, along with communications such as letters and triggers, meaning have they met a threshold that we need to step in and make sure that we're attending to that family that students need to make sure that they're able to come and participate in school. For School Cafe, we have rolled that out and replacing for PowerSchool and RevTrack. This is a new platform that allows us to have students manage their accounts, also roping in all of their data and health information to that kiosk that our cafeteria uses, so that, let's say Johnny has a peanut allergy, sorry for picking on Johnny, but if Johnny has a peanut allergy, the system automatically flags that those items that he selected cannot be sold, just as another level of safety, so that our students are eating things that are healthy for them. And so last but not least, we're currently working with Dr. Fletcher in regards to Perform Yard. That's our customized development and faculty evaluation tool. So we've been developing our forms, and also Trent's been recording a lot of content for both users and administrators to help educators kind of piece together their narratives, their goals, and their evidence of how they're aligning with our living framework in classrooms. So as some of you may have seen, this is posted shared throughout the school district, our faculties, and this living framework that Dr. Fletcher and us have developed, which is how do you have a strong living framework in a classroom that supports your lessons. So first thing you have to do is have a safe, supportive learning environment. Those are the tactics of how you can reinforce that. Second phase is goal setting. Where are you going with this lesson? Third is how you can make thinking visible, which is really important nowadays. It's not about just getting the right answer. It's about being able to explain how you got that answer, how critical you are in analyzing the information you have. And then fourth is what's next. So again, scaffolding, making sure that what they learned today is rolled over for the next lesson and so on. So our in progress projects, there's many comments about artificial intelligence literacy, and that's something we are actively working on. I've gone to a couple of conferences. I'm working with our administrators and integrationists into seeing how we can integrate our AI learning domains into our 21st century skills. So 21st century skills is not new. We've been doing it since I actually was hired and implemented. So we're building that because we don't want teachers to feel that there's a new metric that they have to do. We're making that into a current existing metric so that they can continue using what they're familiar with, but just with more detail and updated for the 21st century. We're doing a course inventory again to make sure that all the things that are offered throughout the district leads to something that is built upon, so that there's nothing that is either skipped so that students are missing out on certain skill set, or that they feel that they're missing when they get to college. Trent and Dr. Bachman will be going into UConn soon to do some recruitment outreach, and so that's gonna help us locate some new talent and upcoming educators for the district. For researching solutions, because we have so many different platforms nowadays, we're looking for software so that we can kind of streamline all of our rostering programs so that we'll ensure that everyone is accounted for throughout our assessments, through our learning platforms, just so that no student misses time if they're doing instruction. We're streamlining communications. We have our parent square that will be rolling out soon in the spring. We just figured that with the new school year starting, it was just too much to tack on for our administrators and teachers to utilize on top of our Skillshare platform and on top of our emails. So we're trying to make sure that our policy is strong before we launch that to our district. And last but not least, we are working on our strategic planning, which I will take over for your direct.
Thank you. Before we talk about the strategic plan, I know Jeff just threw a lot at you guys about what we're currently working on. So I thought this might be a good place to pause and see if you guys have any questions about anything we've shown you so far. A lot of information.
A couple of things jumped out at me. And first thing, IXL, you said students 38% at home. First I'm hearing of it and I have a kid. So is there a way that I have access to IXL or I can encourage him to get access, do the IXL, or when I'm helping him with some of his homework, I'd be like, man, I need a refresher on this.
Yeah.
You know, or I need to see, one of my biggest struggles over the years has always been, that's not how I learned it. And I don't understand how they're teaching it when it's just, here's the question.
Right.
You know, does IXL provide some information so I get context of how it's being taught?
Sure. May I ask what grade level your child's in?
7.
So, okay, so that should be active there. I can talk to our integrationists just to make sure that parents get more information, but it is new this year, so.
Just rolled it out this
Yeah.
summer.
It's
in a pilot phase.
Right, yeah, but we do have everyone rostered and all the integrationists are working with the students, so, right at the beginning of the year, kind of like what I mentioned about the STAR assessments, where they do their benchmark for the fall, just to see where they're at, this is a supplemental tool as well, so every student is rostered in, so no concern that your child has not accessed it, but he should have, be able to get it.
Well, it's just now a resource when he comes to me and I don't understand the lesson plan is being taught.
Oh, yes, yeah.
As being taught, and we'll go to IXL.
Right, yeah, it's beautiful, it's kind of like a digital McGraw-Hill book, workbook back in the days when I used to tutor kids, so.
So we expanded it to the middle school. It was being utilized at the high school previously. We expanded it to the middle school this summer. Our integrationists got trained over the summer. They're then training the trainer sort of with some other staff members at the middle school, so they're literally just getting it off the ground kind of now. I know they're using it, but I anticipate there being more information as people get more comfortable with promoting the product.
Some of the kids are having it as like homework and stuff too, or like certain number of set minutes that they're doing in IXL as part of the curricular programs of the middle school, at least for some of the classrooms.
Yeah, so my question is more, are there classes that are being offered through IXL? That are not like, or is it strictly a supplement to the curriculum that we have?
So currently, all core academics, so math, science, language arts, and social studies, all of those teachers are monitoring that platform. So yes, that is integrated into their curriculum that they're using in the classroom. So now in terms of how often, I know that everyone was definitely using it for the benchmarking process. I'm not sure how often they're using it for homework each night, or is it more of, as you were saying, just supplemental if you want to do more or learn more about a certain topic that they can sign in and engage themselves. Yeah.
So if we have, if let's say, if we're not offering the class that one of our students is interested in currently, that's not something we can get through IXL.
I believe they have carte blanche, they can access those other subjects. So they may be tied to their grade level. So let's say a 5th grader may not take a 6th grade level class, but I'm pretty sure, and I can follow up with Florida as well, just get a definitive answer. But I believe that I'm certain that all 4 core subjects have access for that.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is the teacher responsible for leading the students through this, or are the students more responsible for leading themselves?
My honest answer, that may be a building admin question, that, because I'm not, I help integrate the program, but I'm not overseeing each of the
It could
grade
be either,
levels.
it's a supplemental resource, so if, it may be, for example, your homework assignment for this night, but it's also available for students if they needed additional support in particular areas. So at the high school level, it's available for things like SAT prep. So kids can use that during the day on their own time as an SAT prep.
Yeah, I mean, 115,000 questions,
Yes, yeah.
sounds like people are using. it.
Jim and then Karen.
Yeah, Jeff, you had mentioned, you're also integrating some artificial intelligence literacy. Can you explain that in general terms and also give us a practical example of how that gets implemented in the classroom?
Sure. So there are learning domains that we want to tie into their 21st century skills. So if those are not familiar, it's usually like critical thinking, curiosity, leadership, agility, collaborative skills. And so using AI, we don't want to just say, use it and then just say, you know, this is, I've completed assignment, I know how to use AI. We want to be able to tie AI usage into like critical thinking. So when you're using it, are you giving attributes, meaning are you starting to use a program? Are you using AI first and then using that to develop your work? Are you writing your own work? You're feeding that into AI and therefore generating another result. So we want to make sure that it's kind of like a digital citizenship approach, which is also something the high school is doing, is how to use that tool responsibly. It's the new calculator for now for these children, but it's a tool that we've all encountered, you know, either in our work life or personal at home. So we want to make sure that we're, again, scaling that information to the children to make sure that first they understand what is AI. So like I went to one of the conferences, they had like kindergartners tell the presenter how to make a peanut butter sandwich, but they're not giving them the correct prompt that you need to get the right answer. So when he's basically telling them, oh, put the peanut butter on a bread, he's putting the jar of peanut butter on the bread. So that shows the children, oh, I need to be more specific about my prompts. I need to understand how the system's thinking, and therefore being able to leverage it correctly. So before we just turn on the switch and say, oh, we're using Google Gemini because that's part of our Educate Google for Education workspace, we want to make sure that students have a curriculum behind there instead of just letting them use it for any assignments. And for kindergarten, like for elementary grade level, want to make sure that they know what the context of AI is. For middle school, this is still in the works, so I would not say this is definitive in terms of what we are going to be rolling out. But in the middle school, learning about attributions, what are hallucinations about AI, what AI can get wrong, can't you just trust it right off the bat? And then for high school, knowing that they're going into college and knowing the past couple of years of how turbulent AI is with college essays and no longer switching over, having people develop Zero GPT, which is to help them track what students may have used AI to generate their work. We want to make sure our students don't run into that. So we want to teach them that responsibility by developing good attribution practices, kind of like citing your work. Like badge, there's I could go into more detail, but there's like badging for different assignments so that you can say, this is my approach, so that there's more transparency. So we can walk away from that. If you're using AI, it's bad. And we want to make sure they're comfortable using the tool, but to use that tool properly. Okay, thank you.
Well, you actually just answered a lot of my questions because it was related around AI, and I was, wondering, so K through 12 is using AI because that's.
Oh, no, not yet, we're just having
Okay,
a conversation.
so that's what I'm asking. It's an incredibly valuable tool, but I also understand the challenges for teachers
Right.
assessing kids' work. So do we have, Chris, do we have PD opportunities? Where are we with this whole AI infusion?
So we are piloting at the high school, not a new class, because that would require your approval, but a 10-week section of a course, which hasn't been announced yet, for the high school level, and they probably put us. To do some integration is particularly at the high school level, because that's where our student is familiar with it. But that said, some of the work that Jeff's doing that he did mention is assisting not just us as district, but building leaders and curriculum leaders about where this needs to be embedded K-12. Because as he said, this is everywhere now.
Yeah.
And then the first step would be identifying what the best programmatic uses, and then identifying how we train teachers who've never used it before including, I just sat through my first AI training last week, and I can tell you that I've never used Chat GPT before, so everything you get from me is me. But I can't say the same for everybody else. But it's not something that we're able to turn around overnight, but it's certainly time for us to start heading.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's happening
Yes, yeah.
and being used. Thank you. Stephen, that's what.
Two questions. One, the Swiss, is that system able to do a de-identified breakdown that would be able to be shared with the board? So that we can see trends at every school? I would encourage that. I think that would be a great opportunity. Again, it goes back to how do we evaluate ourselves? And one of it is, you know, I've asked for that for years, and I think that would be a great opportunity for you guys in the future to be able to see and help work with the administration on what's needed, to help justify some actions. And then also the second question is the transfer system or transfer you have. Who has access to that? What grades are able to start looking at careers?
So, Karina Houston was the one that approached me for it, so through like college and career readiness that's being offered. I'm not certain as to when, I believe it's like juniors and seniors would be the ones that be able to sign up for it, just because that's what they're leading towards for how like in depth the curriculum is. But there's a trek, and there's a training portion of it. Trek is more of a career exploration. Training is more like if you're looking to engage in that workforce, it will put you into a program that is more in depth. And the great thing about transfer is that it does align it has its own set of standards. They're aligned with the actual workforce. So if you're looking to do like aerodynamics for machining or something, those live workforce standards that they expect those employees to know are aligned with that transfer program as well.
So is it mainly geared towards the junior seniors? Do they have programs? Again, I go back, I use my own son.
Right.
He's changed career paths several times over the last couple of years and most recently wants to be a mechanic. And, you know, I was talking about he wants to maybe go to vinyl, maybe go in a mechanic program. And so at that age, 7th and 8th, they're already thinking about what is, you know, are they going to other schools other than Old Saybrook? So I'm just wondering if they had stuff at 7th and 8th at a grade appropriate program in the transfer system.
I believe the earliest iteration of that trek is we can deploy that to the middle school. I haven't met with Karina yet, this past month. I think she was gonna go to one of their trainings. And so, but there is like a little career path where there's a little porcupine that goes through this literal path about exploring what are your skill sets, what are your interests, and that leads you, it's kind of like an onet.com, which lets you put in your personality traits, and that lets you surface and discover what you may be more interested or opt to succeed in.
Yeah, I like the idea. Just, I think, you know, maybe something that could be expanded on and open up to the 7th and 8th graders that are thinking about what path in high school.
Right.
Because we talked, I think last meeting, we had the presentation on all these different engineering and maths and all these programs that, you know, 7th and 8th might be able to, hey, I really do like math.
Right.
I know, but
So we, again, now, final broker record, we just got it. The board will get a presentation on it, because if you've seen it, it looks pretty cool. My concern initially was make sure there's pads, but goggles actually stop them with the lines.
they know how to use it better than us.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
probably jumping into what some of the things Trent's gonna talk about, because you're 100% right about us thinking outside the box on some of the things that are offered. And although what we may be constricted sometimes at size, there are creative ways to offer kids opportunities. It's just having the right people, finding them and training them, and making sure that that's what our kids are. So.
You guys are stepping all over my slide.
See you later, Trent.
So my question, so first of all, I really appreciate the alignment of the tech and the tools to enable the strategy and the tie back to which tools that we're using in order to further the purpose of the strategy. My question is on how are we gaining feedback from the users? So we implement Swiss, we implement curriculum mapping, et cetera. We implement school cafe for the parents. What's the feedback loop process for, is it actually doing what we think that it's doing? Does it need some level of tweaks or whatever that needs?
Immediately, I would say just like surveying staff at faculty meetings right now, because majority of the things I presented are new for this school year, it's really, everyone's focused more on learning how to use it first, and then down the road, maybe towards like before winter break, that we can survey staff and just say, what's working, what's not working, what can we change, and just make sure that everyone kind of feels that they're comfortable using that. Again, because we want to make sure that there's that alignment part of the district, that there's no siloing, that one school is using it every day, the other school doesn't even know what it is. So we want to make sure as part of our department that everyone has access to it.
Just to piggyback on that too, as an example, we are implementing Perform Yard right now, which is the evaluation tool that we're using this year. We are actively engaged with the administrators and the teachers daily in terms of making sure that both sides are comfortable using that tool. So we're taking questions, we're taking comments, we're taking feedback, and we're making changes and tweaks and new implementations every day. I've been developing resources for both the administrative team and the educators to make sure that they have a step-by-step tool and process for using those, because that's what they do for their goal setting. And then that's what they do for their observations and their mid-years, and their end of years. And by the end of the year, we'll have a wealth of data in terms of looking at a particular employee and all the different ways that we checked in with that employee over the course of the year. And that'll just compound year over year over year. But that data is all being collected by us now, and we're finding it constantly.
And then how do we do the same for feedback loop for parent facing systems?
It's the same kind of thing, but we're just gonna have to be a little bit more proactive with it. You know, obviously the staff we're in the building with them. It's easy for us to check in a classroom, not so much going door to door in people's houses. I think they'd like that. So we're just gonna have to, you know, it's still gonna be probably survey, community focus type of focus group type of things. It's not always easy to get parents to come out. You know, there's sort of the old adage of like, you know, if nobody shows up, then they're not really that upset about it. That's not always the case, but we just need to make ourselves available and make sure that there are some response tools available for them to use, not just, hey, on November 15th, we're holding this meeting, but all the time, or that they can, you know, so that if they come up with an issue on something, they can get a hold of us and we can use that data point.
And it ties back with our streamlined communications, at Parent Square will offer digital forms and surveying. So through that launch, we will also leverage that either in classroom, locally, or district-wide.
Any other questions before we move on?
Sure. How important is Power School? Like, where does Power School fit in this?
I still do that every day.
Okay.
Is that intensive?
Okay, yeah, and you know, 10-second answer is this, you know, I mean, are we phasing out? Is the goal to phase out Power School, or is all of this complementary to Power School?
No, Power School is our key student information system, so that has every student record, IEP 504 information. So none of this information, none of these applications are eliminated in Power School. That's still, these are considered just different communication platforms, assessment platforms. Power School does have like a top tier, they purchase Schoology, they actually purchase a lot of programs, but we're not using that at the moment, so we're just using them as our key SIS program. So the Power School is not going anywhere.
Thank you.
Yeah, because that's half of my other job. Yeah.
Good? All right. It's good to be back. Before we get started, just want to thank Superintendent Drezig and all of you for the support, confidence that you put Jeff and I to do this new work. We're really excited about it. Every day is a joy working with Jeff, so it's been fantastic. So he did a great summary of kind of where we started in the spring of last year to now, what we're currently working on. I'm kind of transition to the strategic plan for 26 through 31. So you guys have the document. I think at the second meeting of the year, Chris distributed a version of the strategic plan, sort of the plan for the plan. We're in the third iteration of that document now, but the executive summary is not changed. So that is the build a living document that takes in student voice, staff insight, family partnership. Plan outlays 7 strategic pillars, which is now kind of more like 6, that represent the community's core values and aspirations. That has not changed through any iteration of the document. Where did this document come from? I'm not gonna read all these to you, but this is where the document came from. Every budget presentation you've ever gotten, every NESDEC report, every next gen accountability score you've ever seen, every conversation that we've had in this room for the last 5 years built the plan for the next 5 years. So this was not Jeff, me, and Chris sitting in a room saying, hey, you know what we should focus on? It is a culmination of all of these things that built the draft that was shared with you guys. So out of all of that data that we put together, this is what came out of it, and none of it is new. I know none of it's new because I was sitting right over there every time you heard all of these things. What are our strengths? We have a collaborative instructional culture. Chris has said this over and over again. Yes, we're a small district, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be an asset if we leverage it correctly. We could be nimble. We have a high AP ECE enrollment. That's advanced placement and early college experience courses. And we have a growing CTE and leadership program. So those are our tech courses. What are our areas of growth? Consistency in curriculum and grading. More mental health supports. That came right out of the Youth and Family Services survey that we give every few years. Professional learning time and staff bandwidth. Cohesive student transitions. How many times have we heard that over the last several years? We need to do a better job making sure our 4th graders are ready for 5th grade. We need to do a better job making sure our 8th graders are ready for 9th grade. We need to do a better job making sure our 12th graders are ready to go on to either college or career. Equity for high needs and multilingual learners. Yeah, how many presentations have we gotten around needing a higher equity level for our multilingual learners? It's something that we have actively been working on for years. So these were all those strengths, all those areas of growth were used to develop these 6-ish, 7 pillars. The reason why I say that is because this pillar right here, academic excellence and high quality instruction. This was pillar 1. Pillar 7 was artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and technology adaptation. Based on the very lengthy conversation that we just had with Jeff, it's pretty clear those two things go together. We're going to roll in artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and technology adaptation into academic excellence and high quality instruction. There's no really other way to do it. We can't pretend like those tools don't exist anymore. Mary Beth, if you would be so kind, because I can't do it with this, can you go ahead and click on student voice, leadership, and identity for me, please? Okay. So for each one of these pillars, I outlined a very brief, why does this matter, and the strategic priorities to help us get there. So we can go through each one of these if you want. We don't have to, but they're there for you within the presentation if you later on want to go through and see what is the outline for each one of these. Additionally, in the packet that you got at the second meeting, I go into a lot more detail with this exact information. Can you go ahead and click on the screen again for me right now? Does anybody want to take a quick look at any one of these? Okay, Jackie.
Whole student wellness and belonging.
Okay. Whole student wellness and belonging, 500. Why this matters? Our students cannot thrive academically unless they first feel safe, supported, and known. So this would be one of our SEL pillars, essentially. So strategic priorities: expanding school counseling, SEL programs, trauma-informed practices, strengthen tier 2 supports for at-risk students, promote positive school climate, identity, safety across all grades. So this would be our SEL work. This would be stuff with our counselors. This would be stuff very much in Sarah Smalley's wheelhouse in her department. Go ahead and click on that again.
Excuse me, would you mind clicking on engaged family and community partnerships?
Of course. Engaged family and community partnerships for 500. Why this matters: families are our students' first and most important teachers. School-home communication is strong, students do better academically and socially. So our priorities for this would be streamline communications and expand multilingual access, build meaningful family input loops and co-learning opportunities, celebrate our schools through public storytelling and events. That sounds a lot like the stuff that I like to do and on my communications thing. So again, it's not as though we're not doing these things. it's not as though if you decide this isn't the pillar that we're gonna focus on for the next 5 years, that we're gonna decide this isn't important, it's going away, because then I would be going away. You know, these things are still important, but the reality is, all of the, if you can go back to the main. All of these things are important. They all go into stuff that we are actively doing and things that we want to be doing, but we can't build a 5-year strategic plan pretending like 7 different things are gonna be our number one priority. It's just not gonna happen. That's how sloppy work and dropped projects end up happening. We have to pick the 3 or 4 that we want to focus on as our main focus, while still continuing to do these other things when and where we can.
So change, you click on just professional growth.
Professional growth, workforce is.
Yes.
Our teachers and staff are our most valuable resource. To attract and retain the best people, we must invest in their growth and leadership. So develop teacher leader roles and peer coaching systems, align evaluation with real-time feedback and support, recruit and retain a diverse, high-quality workforce. So I can actively speak to recruit and retain a diverse, high-quality workforce. Dr. Bachman and I are working on an initiative right now to go out and do some teacher recruiting. So we have commitments from UConn, Southern, and Central. We're gonna go to their teacher recruitments this spring. And we're gonna give a pitch. We're gonna make sure that we have somebody on site with us who can conduct a round 1 interview if we see a candidate that just looks amazing. So that way we can get them right there that day, coming into Old Saybrook Public Schools for an interview with us. Aligned evaluation with real-time feedback and support. That's the performing art conversation that we just had. So this is a brand new system that will allow our administrators to dynamically give all of our educators formal and informal feedback throughout the school year. All of that will build towards a profile of evaluation for our educators over the course of the academic year and beyond. Because as I was having a conversation with Dr. Fletcher the other day about the value of this data, it's not just, we don't stop at the end of the school year, because you begin the next year with where you left off. You can start that school year saying, hey, this teacher at the end of last year, we're working on this. Let's see how they do implementing that at the start of the school year for the following year. Having all of that cumulative data for us just helps our evaluation process get better and more dynamic over the course of many years.
So I just, guess I'm looking for a little bit of clarification. I know this is a draft, but for example, when we look at the high quality instruction, academic excellence, I know we've talked about forever increasing rigor. We mentioned our high needs population, and I think I understand that to mean it's the that generally does not include our high achieving academic students. It's more of the multilingual, it's the
No, I didn't include everyone, but if you're designated as high needs, you're either classified by the state's definition of either having an IEP, a special education, multi-language learner, or they're considered free education.
right.
So
that's
you could be a high achiever, but still be on free, you know what I mean, or have an IEP, so it's just.
that,
But what if you're a high achiever and not?
that's, that makes sense, but
Concerned about leaving some
what we
students
keep,
behind.
we keep circling back to the needs, and it seems like it gets a little overlooked, the students that are really high achievers, and that somehow in that strategic pillar, I want to make sure we don't lose the fact that, you know, we need to focus on these high kids, and you know, when we say differentiated instruction and all of that, kind of get the sense, is it really happening? Is it as effective as it should be? And that our staff needs to know how to adjust curriculum and teaching approaches to accommodate the diverse learning styles of all of our students. And I don't want that to get lost. So again, we talk about academic rigor all the time. I just need that to be focused.
Well, I totally agree with you. I think some of the disconnect is that we're talking about a target, whereas you're talking about a bullseye within the target. So what you're saying falls into those pillars, but we're not establishing the actual goals with underneath those pillars at this time. We're kind of looking at what are the big buckets,
Yeah,
and then we decide what's going inside of those buckets.
I think you have an opportunity to redefine
okay,
what your interpretation. Like,
Absolutely.
There's an existing plan where your priorities are already outlined. You have to do a new one. You can redefine what those pillars are, or do you want all of them? Ultimately, this is the board's strategic plan that we all work under. So this was the initial conversation of this is what we, you know, if you notice, we don't have the same things that we've had in the existing plan, but this is an opportunity and a discussion for the board to decide
I understand that.
where you want your priorities to lie.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to see anything else in depth a little bit more, or are we ready to move on?
I think
We're ready to move on.
So, this is where we're at. Fall 2025, collecting stakeholder feedback. So everything that I've shown you up to this point is a culmination of all of the data that we've collected over the last 5 years. But there's more. We just, I don't want to say concluded, we're in the middle of conducting a survey to our 3 largest stakeholder groups. So that's parents, students, and staff, specifically related to program and course interest. So we're using this data for 2 different purposes. One, to help us establish our strategic plan buckets, what needs to go into those buckets. And 2, for a new project that Jeff, the superintendent and I are working on regarding pathways and making sure, to Steve's point, that our students as early as possible can get on a path towards a career, no matter what that means. Is that college bound? Is that a trade? Is that a particular certification? So we're using this survey data to help us figure out how to create those pathways through our curriculum, starting hopefully in the long run as early as grade 4. Mary Beth, can you please click on staff for me? The word staff.
Yep.
That was not it.
Okay.
Right on the word staff. Very There we go. Thank you. So these are the highlights from the staff survey. So the first thing that they highlighted was the meaningful programs that we currently have. Internships, ED programs, Saybrook Studies, Main Street Math. What do all those have in common? They're hands-on opportunities for students to actually take ownership of their learning. Needed additions, calls for career and technical education, trades, EMT, CNA certification, etc. Skills students need: executive functioning, organization, perseverance, communication. Gaps identified. Too few opportunities for non-college bound students. And another thing that we've run into a lot, scheduling is a recurring issue that we are constantly working on, trying to free things up for some more creative scheduling for our students so that they can take more that they're actually interested in doing. And then visionary ideas, some cool ideas came out of it. A freshman 101 transition course, student run business. We actually have one very successful one right now called Rampage Merch. They do very well. More stuff like that. I think the theme here is hands-on. Can you go back to the previous slide? Okay, can you click on parents, please? So these are the highlights from the parents survey. Desired courses and electives. Parents want more hands-on electives: plumbing, welding, woodworking, robotics, etc. Skills for students. Emphasis on study skills, organization, time management, writing stamina, confidence, etc. Extracurricular athletics. So requests for more varied athletics, that gets difficult because we're a small district. We only have so many kids to go around for so many sports, but that doesn't mean that co-ops aren't necessarily an option. And diverse clubs, photography, debate, chess, etc. High school preparation. So for 8th grade, that means making sure that they're ready for high school. For high school students, that's making sure that they can find career pathways and internships that meet their interests for what they want to do when they get home. Facilities and scheduling, very common and reoccurring note: concerns about outdated athletic facilities, limited access to due to scheduling conflicts. Go back again for me, please, and then click students. And finally, the student data. So before we go through this, I just want to make a note. We gave this survey to our 4th, 5th through 7th, 8th, 9th through 11th, and 12th.
So we broke it down for that way specifically, fourth graders because they're about to transition to the middle school. Fifth through seventh, eighth grade because they're gonna transition to the high school, 9 through 11, and then 12 because they're about to transition away from us. So we broke it down in such a way, but the questions were all aiming at the same thing, which is, what do you like? What do we not have that you're interested in? What programs outside of Old Saybrook Public Schools do you wish we could mirror or do more of? So current engagement, students express enthusiasm for classes that feel active, creative, and personally meaningful. Desired additions, both middle school and high school students identified a strong desire for career-oriented and technical programs. Skills and interests, students want to develop life skills like financial literacy, public speaking, job readiness, communication. Extracurriculars, strong interest in new and varied clubs, esports, debate, outdoor programs. Challenges and barriers, scheduling again. Students across grade levels feel limited by overlapping electives and insufficient. And future focus, 8th through 12th graders showed high curiosity about career pathways and programs outside of Old Saybrook Public Schools. Now, if it sounds like I just repeated myself 3 times, it's because I did. You can go back, please. So this is what all 3 of our survey results had in common and spit out. Career pathways and real world learning. That's what all 3 stakeholder groups said was important. We want to make sure that our kids get these career pathways as early as possible, and they want to do hands-on stuff to make sure it's what they're really passionate about. Life skills and readiness. I think I said communication, organization, and time management every single time. Expanded course offerings. Every single group said it. We want more STEM, we want more tech, we want more trades. Balance of rigor and creativity. So staff and parents stressed rigor and readiness for college. Students consistently requested creative, hands-on learning opportunities. Belonging and engagement. All groups recognize extracurriculars and clubs are essential to student connection, wellness, and school pride. Expanded offerings for those 4. So that brings us back. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What's the survey response rate on this? Cause like I've been trying to, on the sidelines, different areas, asking parents, and some parents hadn't really even registered the survey. So what's the survey response?
The survey response for students was high. It was close to 300.
297.
Yeah.
59. Staff.
Yeah, staff was somewhere in the 60s, I think, and parents was the lowest for sure. I think somewhere in the high 50s.
Just to make one quick amendment, the PDF that was provided of the slides, we received a lot of overwhelming response from students this past couple of days. So we realized we could not summarize what everyone wanted. So that's why the slide deck you may have is a little different, because we felt we could not do them justice by summarizing what they said. So we gave them dedicated slides.
Right.
The other piece that I wasn't gonna hang on track, but I'll use you as an example, Steve. About 20 minutes ago, you got up and did what? Turn on the fan because it was warm in here.
Every meeting.
Every meeting. We're adults.
Turn the fan on.
One of the things that was in the survey, but because the survey was a bit more centered on programming and things along those lines. But it's been very apparent to me from conversations with students, conversations with parents, and conversations with staff. Our outdated facilities. Our buildings are old. Doesn't mean we don't clean them nice. We do. Not saying anything's wrong. They're all built in the 60s. And I just found that we're teetering on whether or not, I don't want to put Trent, because I don't want Trent to be the guy to be like, our buildings are old. Well, I told him I'd take that piece. But that actually worked out great, because if it's cool in here compared to the learning environment for some of our kids and some of our staff members. Now, I know we've addressed and we're working on the good one piece, but it's time that we're gonna start having a conversation about the conditions of our other buildings, both inside and out. We wanted to make sure that as we're having this discussion, this isn't just a strategic plan, but as you're gonna see up there, the budget starts soon. And I don't want anyone surprised when I start having this dialogue, and I appreciate Steve and your short time left that I owe you some dates and I'll get them to you tomorrow. as the facilities chair, that we're gonna start walking around this buildings pretty soon, so you guys can see rules. And that's not a negative, that's not an indictment on anyone, it's just fact. They're old.
We absolutely love working at the middle school, but I got to do my first July and August in a non-air conditioned building. That was, I lost a lot of weight. So, it was very hot.
I actually walked by on the outside of one of the classrooms and I walked with another staff member and I said, put your hand. I know how firemen teach you, put your backside of your hand on the door, on the window of a classroom. Where our kids are getting intervention. And they couldn't because they were gonna burn it. Right. It's just, okay, it's not an indictment on anyone, it's not to say we don't take care of our stuff, we do a very good job in this community of supporting our kids and supporting our schools. But we need to start having that conversation, if we're gonna talk about what this place looks like in the next 5 to 10 years, it's a big part of it. And that conversation needs to be, so. Yes, so I wasn't gonna hang the capital piece on Trent, so I'm sorry, Trent, you make it.
I mean, we're almost done. That brings us back to the timeline. So as we've discussed, collect stakeholder feedback. That's where we're at. What we, and by we, I mean, need to decide as a group is, have we collected enough data points the last 5 years and from the survey that I just presented to you guys to decide what are the 3 or 4 pillars that we want to focus on for the next strategic plan? If the answer is yes, then good, do it. And then we can move on to the next phase. If the answer is no, then we need to figure out what is the data that we don't have? How and when are we gonna collect it? And then how do we then integrate that into everything else that we've already established? Because winter is right around the corner. And that is the point in which everybody's gonna be asked to develop their budget for next year and their department and building goals for next year. And if we need to have a plan to present them to say, hey, here's what we as a district have decided and as a board have decided, these are the important things. So align your budgets and your goals accordingly. That's coming up very soon. Spring will be here before we know it, and then we'll have to be starting to share this out with the community. And then July 1, we own it. We're starting year 1 of the new strategic plan. So time is a little bit of the essence, but we work at your pleasure. So, the ball is in your guys' court in terms of what are next steps. And if anybody has questions, I would be happy to take them.
You're hoping to get that answer tonight.
It does not have to be tonight. I am not here to put any pressure in terms of making a decision. I am here to just present you with the data that we've collected and the decision that you have in front of you.
I am.
I would like that. Well done, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't, you know me, I don't throw that around a lot, so I appreciate the work that's been done. And I'm really happy to see a lot of the groups are all saying very similar things, so when you just said that, my initial reaction is like, absolutely, we have the information to make the decisions on what the community, what the teachers, and what the students are seeing as important for our next 5 years, so that's just, I don't know.
So my question is around what is the process for providing feedback on this? And
It is.
what are next steps?
Survey. Whatever you wish, so traditionally, and I know we've broken some tradition. First of all, traditionally, you've always gone outside to have somebody facilitate this. And I appreciate you all having a little bit of trust because I told you we had those people already and I think they proved it, but I will leave it at that. But traditionally, the board has had a strategic plan committee with different representation. Which is why it was important that we show where we got the information from so that everyone can understand that they have had an opportunity and will continue. I guess really the question is, do you want to go down that road again with one particular strategic plan committee? Do you feel like if you have enough information to pick the priorities? And then what I've seen in other places was you can start a series of conversations throughout the community instead of having one committee particularly say, it's really up to you. That's been dictated by the board in the past. But this is as far as we can take without asking you guys what you want to do.
Well, I guess, so you guys have done not only a nice job pulling this together, both with the technology that you presented and the bucketing of information, collecting and bucketing of information. Beautiful job and very nicely presented. And I agree with Steve that I think that we've got the information. Some of my feedback is related to how some of it may have been bucketed and some of the targets that have been identified and some of the content of the draft plan. So how does that, so I would agree that we don't need to outsource it. I think we insource it. But I would like an opportunity as a board and as a board member to provide some feedback, reaction.
I have an idea. So, don't mean to jump in here. We already have it on the books in 2 weeks to have a leadership committee, leadership meeting. That's what we have in 2 weeks. And my experiences of them in the past, pretty much all of us have been in the same room and we've all said the same stuff. I think it's a great opportunity for us to vet this piece out in that leadership meeting. Because that's what we are, right? We are supposed to be this leadership. And this is one of the most important things that we do. And I actually see that would be this, maybe inviting them into that meeting as well, be a great use of our actual time in 2 weeks versus some of what we've done in the past. That would just be, we already have it in the books. We already know, now we have a great topic to actually sit around and have good discussion and thought processes through it.
I think we are obligated though to have that meeting. And
Yes, but
we
Add it as an item.
part of the agenda. item.
condense and.
Yeah,
We can shift, we
Yeah.
did talk about that a little
Shift,
bit in also just because of like the timing of the meeting and the shift, we said we wanted to kind of do like a little bit of a mini with the stuff that we have now. Learnings to maybe pass on, and then, you know, there might be a change in the composition of the board after.
Yeah, because I do agree that I think either we need we need a meeting just to kind of hash this out and throw our specific ideas out. And then see how it all, flows and comes together. And I think trying to include that as a separate agenda item on another board meeting, when we have all these other business items to attend to, is not gonna make sense. It's gonna feel very rushy. So I do like the idea, as Steve suggested, to include that somehow. Yeah.
Okay, Jane? Just to better understand, I mean, I think it's great that we see such overlap, but can you explain a little bit more about how the parent family feedback was solicited?
It was all done through survey.
Did that go out as an email?
It went out as several different emails, yes.
So, okay, and it was for anybody that had students in the everything,
Correct.
the whole pre-K through the
Just
12th grade.
Four through 12.
So,
The students was 4 through 12. I think the survey went out for everybody. That's my.
yeah, that's where I'm confused, like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't we include
Because they,
Goodwin? Because that would pretty much exclude every Goodwin family if it was only 4th grade families at top.
I'd have to double check that. I'm pretty sure the survey went to all Goodwin families.
So that would even be.
you went to
pre-K.
Goodwin families and Goodwin staff.
Yes.
I think we only surveyed 4th grade kids because
Right,
they're
because,
transitioning.
Right,
yeah, I mean,
yes.
that I totally understand, but I'm concerned that if we started with 4th grade.
I know for
families,
sure all Goodwin staff was surveyed. I am almost completely positive that all Goodwin parents were also asked.
Yeah.
But you also do focus groups, right? I mean, that's.
We did though, that's a culmination of things that happened during last year. All that all that data is in.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, I would be curious if there's a way offline, if you could, if we could have access to how many families. I'm concerned that it was so low of a response rate. If
Yeah.
it was 50 for all the families in this district. That, could you give a bar chart? This is the percentage of responses that came from the high school. Was it 50% from the high school? Was it 80%? Was it 10%? Just break it down, whether it's grade or,
Yeah.
however you can do that.
Absolutely.
it goes back to something that we kind of talked about earlier in terms of the data collection process and the willingness of whereas I can go knock on any of my colleagues' doors and say, hey, can you take this survey? I can't go to door to door in the community and ask people to take it. So we're sort of at the mercy of.
And I don't feel like that's an unusual response rate for this community.
It's not.
It's
Right.
not, it's
It's
not,
pretty
but my concern was I did talk to parents that didn't even realize that the email was there, which like we just, I just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence to try to make sure that we get as high of a response rate as we
Yeah, I
possibly.
agree, but at some point, like parents' responsibility, and I hate email. I hate it. I just loathe looking at my emails. And I saw the survey and I actually respond.
Yeah.
And it's very rare that I do something, but at some point, I like, we're talking about one of the things parents were saying is, making students responsible for doing stuff. Well, guess what? That falls back on parents, Tim.
Certainly. And it reinforces what you heard from the other two groups. And so I don't, I recognize that it's a low response rate, but it's typical and it's consistent.
Well, the
And
thing
I
is-
wouldn't expect to need to collect,
Right.
try to push it to 70% response rate and find something different.
Well, the thing that's interesting about the data is there's nothing that popped out that we've never heard before. It's all it's the same reoccurring things that we've heard over the last several years came out of that survey. But just to maybe put your minds at ease a little bit, Jeff and I have a pretty firm motto that data collection is never done. We're never done collecting data. All of these surveys are still live. I think I got a handful of parent ones in today. We got a slew of I think high school ones. It's students in today. It's never over. We're always kind of refining. And to Steve's point, at some point you have to cut bait and say we got what we got. But we're constantly monitoring that information to make sure, hey, here's a curveball that we weren't even aware of that has come through out of this survey.
What if we sent one last Everbridge notice to all parents? There's an
Absolutely.
email in your email
What's going on?
with a survey. Please, this is your opportunity to input for the future of the Old Saybrook School System.
Glad you mentioned that because we had a pretty good audience here tonight. and We wanted to piggyback on the fact that people were paying attention. And it gives us a chance to ship it back at it. So if you're gonna put it, a 2-week date on having a more robust discussion, that gives us a couple more opportunities to get one.
Absolutely.
So to that effect, let's make sure it went to sounds like you guys are pretty sure, but you're not 100% sure. It's like 100% sure that every Goodwin family got this email and that it wasn't buried after 4 paragraphs. Here's the link. Oh, by the way, we'd like your feedback. I don't know. Maybe it was a three sentence email that says, hey, we need, we're looking for your feedback in the subject line, Goodwin families, we need your response.
Sure.
Versus strategic plan information, which
They're gonna delete.
they don't, parents are.
I think in the subject line, it was important survey dash something, about the strategic. I don't. If you just say important survey, that's spam. But
Chance to win $500.
yeah, right.
Well, actually, I don't know.
But no, to your point, absolutely. I can do that tomorrow, first thing when I come in. I'll get it ready. I'll send it out to all 3 groups one more time and say, hey, you got a week?
Yeah,
And then we'll
or
close
3
it.
days. I don't.
And we have the analytics to backtrack and see what we've sent, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Just in the one slide that says suggested strategic pillars. I was saying this one, if we click onto this, then you can see some of the overlap in terms of the concerns of the various groups. So is that something then probably to focus on so that you can determine but a board can determine what areas they want to focus on?
Yeah, and one thing that I can get you guys that I don't know if you have is the version of the draft version that you saw a few weeks ago. I think maybe was version 2. Was it 3?
The strategic plan?
It's the version 3. Okay, so then that is the most up-to-date one. So I've tweaked it a little bit. I'll make sure that I send that out again, just in case, you know, it got buried in anybody's email. But within the draft itself, it goes into more depth for each one of these pillars in terms of some suggested, and that is the operative word. I don't care about a single word that's in that thing. If you guys don't like it, it doesn't mean anything to me. You know, we wanna make sure that you guys have complete ownership over this plan based on what the data says. So, you know, we wanna fill the buckets with what you guys want in them. So I completely agree, you know, have your meeting, decide what is important to you for our schools and for our community, and that's what we'll tailor.
So just pulled up the email as we were going. I wasn't trying to be rude to be on my phone, but in the survey, and I think because a lot of the questions were focused on elective choice and clubs and things that pertain to middle schooler students transitioning in, the options in the drop down are 4th grade and above. So then that would need to be a focus where you go back and make sure, unless it was collected differently for Goodwin students, where we figure out what that looks like.
Okay, I will take a look at that tomorrow.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Joe.
It's okay.
You've been paid.
No, nice job. I understand surveys and all, and where this is. I'm just curious what processes are upcoming, could be upcoming for your teacher leaders and your folks, the boots on the ground, the professional educators in the district, to have version 3, I think you said, right? To have their thoughts on, I mean, they were on the input side, but now on, you know, with the draft, what's the planning for that?
So we are wanting to get a better idea as to, does this work for you? Because you're an anyone.
Yep.
And then the second phase is kind of conjoined a bit. Keep referencing the budget process, which is actually already underway. So we're kind of running parallel tracks. This is leading into all of our, from the administrative team down to our teachers, are all well aware of, we're in the process of another strategic plan. I've told them ad nauseam. A lot of that will be reflected in what we're requesting for next fiscal year, to make sure it's aligning with where we think at this point in time it's going, with some hope that if we make our timelines, we'll have something a bit more concrete. And we're seeing a lot of that beyond a lot of the survey data that we're using, not that just for your purpose of strategic planning, we're using it for actual planning for next school. And you're seeing that, is what you ultimately will see when a budget's presented to you. What you may ultimately see in proposals for new courses, if that's where, you know, where the request is. So those conversations are ongoing. As late as 3 o'clock this afternoon, we had a team of, or no, 1:30, I'm sorry. We had a team of middle school teachers at Goodwin, with Goodwin staff, talking about alignment for things like SRBI, talking about alignment for consult. And then in the afternoon, they flipped and Goodwin staff came over here, doing more of that, which is kind of aligning to that alignment of our priorities, the priorities for the year, and also leading into all of it. There's no surprises. So we can start working on this before you stamp it. But unless we don't like any of it, then we're just gonna focus on the new. So this will obviously ignite additional conversations internally about, this is the direction of the district that's going.
Just for the facilities discussion is so important, and the stakeholder, like, we can put in our strategic plan, we want to build whatever buildings or put whatever in place. But if we don't get feedback from outside of just parents, et cetera, but like stakeholders within the community that have to pass the budget at the end of the day for us to be able to execute on some of these things, or, you know, if we needed to go to bond for something or whatever, I'm just wondering. And maybe we could talk through the process there on how we get that feedback, because there are going to be other stakeholders that are not necessarily parents, staff, students into those bigger decisions on facilities moving forward, because we can budget within our budget, but that only gives us whatever.
Right, pay as you go, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things, again, this is just kind of thought session. You know, the board has a facilities committee. I've been in other communities where they've had sort of, I don't think building committees, you don't necessarily have a building project at this point, but a sort of exploratory committee where you invite stakeholders to that. So you could have not just board, but you would have board representation, parent representation, staff representation. To start that sort of, we call them pre-ref committees because they're particular buildings, but you could have that if that's the committee angle you're looking for, where you get a chance to actually get a little bit more in detail in those, like, not just walking around the facilities, but once you start walking around, there are certain things you can't unknow, right? So you may look and say, this roof and air conditioning, but are the windows too old to put in an AC unit? Do some of the flooring need to come, all that stuff, when it comes to athletic facilities, the types of grass that make hay, things like that. It's just it's just sharing with you experiences I've had, where there's cases where the board and the town work together as sort of a joint committee, because we all have a stake in it. Form of government's a little bit different here with selectmen and board of finance. I came from a town council board of ed environment. So then in other cases, we've had parents sort of been involved with that sort of committee perspective. And you can focus it on one particular building, district-wide, site-wide. But I'm gonna warn it, it'll open because there's never enough fields in town, not just for us, but for all of you who also use facilities outside of the school district. But trying to solicit, we were very careful on this initial survey, not only to help the board in its planning, but to really help us in planning for the immediate future as far as what we're going to offer going forward. So it wasn't as expansive as maybe tell us more, but a lot of the answers we got, we saw that the respondents were really interested in those topics, like facilities across the board. So you have the right to do it anyway. I'm just throwing out suggestions and I will.
Yeah, I think it's important. The survey was important. I just want to make sure that we are getting all of the stakeholders that we need to get responses. And it sounds like we have maybe some, like if you're asking me, do we have all the data? I agree that we have a good amount of data here. I'm glad that a lot of it's aligning. That makes it a lot easier. But we need to make sure that if we're missing Goodwin feedback or if we're missing other people that we have it.
Yeah, sure. And I think there's going to be an opportunity and probably an obligation on our part, once you narrow the focus to those 3 or 4 buckets, to then collect more targeted data around those buckets and around those action items that you want to make a priority over the next 5 years. So I totally agree.
Sorry, Trev. I'll pose the question to the group because ultimately you own this. I mean, we first provided what we thought the data showed us for what pillars would be. If there's a strong concern from the board's perspective that facilities needs to be a part of that, you could add that as a pillar if you wish. Because ultimately that would be the most expensive.
It's under the resource solution.
Yeah, I'm saying more defined
Yeah.
facilities, because and the reason it's not like that is because as we're getting this feedback, it came in a little bit more, I think, glaring than what we originally anticipated when it came to the physical.
I think the only other thing that's going through my head outside of like, I know we talked about facilities, but it's also if we're building a plan for the next 5+ years, then how do we also get feedback from maybe the parents that are gonna have kids entering into the school system? I know that's a hard thing to do because we don't have the same direct line to them as we do for other parents by issuing surveys, but.
I also wonder similarly, parents who recently had their last child go through, if they had the kids go through 13 years of school, they may have helpful information too.
Just I think about. I mean, and maybe we get those through the community conversations. It's just like, how are we gonna form that into the process, I guess, or at least have that possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's nice about Jeff and I kind of taking the lead on this is that because it's in-house, we can have these conversations and we can develop a plan in terms of reaching out to those groups, whereas the plans that we've had have been fantastic, and the groups that we've worked with have been very good, but their main means of collecting data in that moment is just to hold a focus group, and whoever comes, comes. And then we move forward almost exclusively based on that data, and it's presented to you guys as sort of a fait accompli. You guys have an opportunity with this all being in-house to be a lot more involved and steer the feedback gathering, and then what we do with that feedback a lot more than what we've been able to do in the past when we've turned it over to an outside consulting group. We're able to integrate data that we've been collecting over the last 5 years from a variety of different sources that an outside consulting group did not necessarily have access to. So totally agree. I mean, anytime you guys are talking data collection and analysis, we're your guy, we're on board. So we love it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's a good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll move on to our live animal policy update.
Yeah, I touched on it a bit. I don't know much more I could say other than board policy subcommittee. Met earlier this evening. As has been stated, we don't currently have a policy, but we're hoping to have one in the near future that takes into consideration. The only thing I didn't mention earlier this evening, because it had come up at one of the, I don't recall if it was at a PTA meeting or just from parents reaching out. The letters of support for one particular position or not, that information I did share with the policy committee this evening. We actually gave them hard copies of all the letters of support and parent feedback that were specific to one position or another when it came to pets. So I just didn't want people to think I got their messages and passed them along. I started with the policy committee because that's who's ultimately going to be controlling that. And ultimately, if it needs to get to the board, it will be the policy discussion. So that's where we are with the live animal policy.
Yeah, any of the points of feedback that came in through me as well were also shared with the board as.
And if they came in, Kelly would forward them to me and I consolidated that into the packet that went to the.
All right, so then next we will need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the collective bargaining agreement for the teachers union and the superintendent.
So.
Seconded by
Sorry,
Jim.
Jim.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess just so we can reset the room and.
Hour the other night.
We did.
Yeah.
I didn't.
We are on, it is 9:12, 9:13, depending on what clock you're looking at, coming out of executive session. And we will need to, there's reminders on the agenda, for everyone to peruse. I don't know if you want to do a call out thing, let me do that.
I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that, we're doing Red Cross CPR and first aid testing and certification at Old Saybrook High School on October 27th through the 29th. But I thought it was important for you to all know that all of our freshmen and Health One students complete that and get CPR certified through us. So that's a nice little thing to share with the community.
Very nice. Okay.
The Shoreline Music Festival, that's not a concert, that's just practice.
That is
That's
tomorrow night is a concert at 7 o'clock, yeah,
Didn't say that.
regional. Oxford Valley, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's at that.
So with that, we'll just need the motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Steve,
Second.
seconded by Karen, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.